Thank you. I suppose before I came in here to speak today, and I knew that these statements were going to be on, I was thankful that they were going to be on, but it made me a little bit nervous. I'm quite anxious speaking today and quite nervous as the mother of a child with autism. And the impact that this had in our home last week, even though we didn't have to go to the courts, but that collective solidarity and that collective and shared understanding of how difficult how difficult life can be to access services, to access support, but also the shame and guilt you carry as a mother sometimes, because you might have not noticed red flags soon enough. You might have thought there was something different wrong. You might not have known. You waited too long before you asked for help, and the shame that brings. And to think that kids that had diagnoses, their parents wanted to correct those rights, correct what was taken away or what was absent in their daily lives. So when I came in today to speak, not wanting to repeat the lack of consent that the state gave in relation to those dossiers being given, and that the information being given, I asked my daughter for full consent to speak in a personal manner today for her, on behalf of her and the community of which she feels that she belongs and does belong. When we first got a diagnosis, Jordan was 16. Before that, we weren't really sure. I didn't understand. If anything, as a mother, I probably made things worse for her. Demanding she get out of bed. What's wrong? There's something wrong. That emotional overload. And the idea that a meltdown was shared on video, I think, was what rattled us the most last week. Because as a mother who has had to lie on her daughter to act as a security blanket, to weigh her down, to make her feel safe. As a mother who had to search the mountains when the sensory and emotional overload of a day became too much, to the point I think I actually rang Sean Crowe to ask was there mountain rescue he could contact in the county council, because the reservoir was where I couldn't find her and it was becoming dark. The fear, the desperation, so that when you go through all those things and you start to finally realise maybe there's something else here, I'll go and ask for help. And you sit in a waiting room that you've probably waited after 3 trips to A&E, after waiting 2 years on a waiting list, and then you say to your child, tell them everything. Tell them everything. Even if it makes me look bad, our home look bad, whatever it is, tell them everything. So you can get to the bottom of what's going on, how you feel, who you are, what you experience, and why you're struggling day to day with life or emotions or senses, all of it. Tell them everything. And trust them. And then you tell them that and you encourage them that. And then you also inform them that, as somebody who's worked in the addiction and community sector for so long, you know that confidentiality is key to that profession. That they will have the full confidence of that profession. And the only time that they will break that confidence is if you're going to murder someone, take your own life, or if you're being neglected or abused. And beyond that, what happens in that room between you and that medical profession is between you and that medical profession. And to think that I have spent years trying to get my own friends who've already felt disenfranchised by the state for many different reasons to trust in the services, to trust in the state. It will happen. I've had to drive parents, since I became a senator, the capital that opens up for you in terms of knowing someone that's a consultant or knowing someone that understands autism. I have friends that are waiting years for diagnosis, where I've got them and I've put them in the car with their child and I've drove them to my friends to give them some temporary advice on how to navigate the system, on how to get occupational therapy, on how to get speech therapy. And the fact that when you don't manage to have all those needs met, that you go to court, and the very thing that you told your child to do and you to do, which is tell them everything, is then used against you. And I think Senator Sherlock is right in the far right, in conspiracies and all of that. It's so hard to get people to believe in the institutions that they use. And then when that stuff comes out, how do you go back and say, I know, but still trust in them, still ask for that appointment, still talk to that doctor? It's so difficult. And, we can talk about it being lawful, but there's something very, very wrong when so many people don't question something that's happening. That's power. That is, I don't know if you ever heard of control theory. You've either not enough power or you've too much power. And on both ends of them, you're breaking boundaries. Like you've so much power, you don't even realise that you're violating someone's rights. You know, families, like we talked about assets. Senator Conway mentioned about a state protecting its assets. And I sat there going, my daughter is this state's asset. These children are these state's asset. You know, the schools are the state's asset. We need to shift away from assets being some sort of economic output or reputation, and admit when we're wrong and admit when we've got it wrong and change it, and forget about protecting ourselves, because that will keep the distance between those who need help and those who have the power to provide it. And until we acknowledge that we need to lessen that gap and build that trust, it was like, I'm shaking even thinking about it, because like my daughter, when she seen all this flash up last week, texted me and said, are all my stuff? And I said, no, we didn't go to court. You know, that was the bit of advice I could give her. No, your files are okay because we didn't go to court. But God forbid we had to, if we had got to that point. And I just think, you know, whatever about, I agree with Sinn Féin, and I think we need to have an independent review into this, because it is a violation of people's rights, and it needs to be independent, and it can't be carried out by the Department of Health, because when so many people have got it wrong for so long, and the medical profession is the one that bothers me the most in all of this, I think we really, there's something wrong with our institutions if we go this long without somebody going, this is wrong, we need to change this. Thank you.